Welcome to the Big BoneYard. Enter at your own risk.
A career in law because it gives me an opportunity to help people. When a client chooses us to represent them, they're entrusting us with a huge responsibility. It's our goal to exceed their expectations with our personalized service and to help them to achieve the best possible recovery to compensate them for their injuries.
That's where we come in. We come in and we solve that problem for them and really set them on the right track in order to try and get back to what their life was like before the accident happened.
Man, you know, we love to start with some applause. First of all, welcome to the Big BoneYard. All y'all boneheads and folks that's come back to join us again after another week of y'all doing what you do. But you know, we start every week with a round of applause because, you know, it gets us pumped up. We like hearing it. It's an applause for y'all. It's an applause for us. And this week, it's especially important because as we're telling you in this show and in the title of this show, Real Deep Biker Shit, Return of a Prophet. And for those of y'all that's been watching us for a while, y'all know one of our very favorite guests, one of our very favorite brothers is doggone Prophet, doggone aka Brandon Zachary, the man, the myth, the legend, the biker, the author, the educator, man. So we are very pleased, myself, Archbishop, very pleased to welcome back doggone Prophet back to the show, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
And you know, and we're gonna get the Prophet in just a second, so we can just go ahead and do our normal thing that we do. In the meantime, of course, you got myself, Big Bone 1%er, and doggone Archbishop 1%er. Brother, how you feeling today?
What up, though? What up, though? Been doing this work thing all weekend, you know. This back to school time. I mean,
you made it through the weekend. And but you just that's what I was going to ask you about. Back to school, you got to be seeing some of everybody and their damn mother, right?
Oh yeah. Everybody coming back now, so it's, you know, we got to get these kids piped up and ready to go.
Hell yeah. No, I feel you, man. So Prophet, so you, damn it, you here? We got to do the same thing with you, man. How was your weekend? Because weekends, you know, they be tearing our ass up. But how was yours, man?
Man, I'm blessed, man. I had a great weekend here in Charlotte. The weather was absolutely marvelous. It rained today, but other than that, Friday and Saturday was great, man. I'm above ground. I'm healthy, you know, and I am just glad to be here, man. Weekend was awesome, and I'm ready for the week now.
I heard a rumor that on occasion you have a tendency to ride a motorcycle. Is that true, or is that just
true, man?
Talking?
Somebody might have caught me on one every now and again, man. But you know what they're saying? It's therapeutic, man. And as Black men, we don't talk much about the therapy that we need.
Yeah.
And a part of my therapy is that dang on motorcycle.
I feel you. What's that thing they say? You never see a motorcycle outside the psychiatrist's office.
That's right. That's right.
There might be a reason for that.
It might be. You're absolutely right.
Reason, you know. But I'll tell you what. With Prophet being here, I know we're gonna go into all kinds of different directions of conversation. So, Archbishop, sir, if you could help us out with our disclaimer, sir.
Well, our disclaimer is the same thing it is every week. This is our opinions and our opinions alone. This have nothing to do with our prospective clubs, and though we love our club dearly, but this is not what we're talking about. We're here to speak on the facts based on what we've experienced, what's been brought up as rightful information, and it is what it is after that.
That part. Well said, man. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been, a lot of times we'll talk about some news and some this and some that and some other things, and there's plenty of stuff going on. Lord knows it is. But I think we don't have Prophet with us every single week. So if we can, brother, we'd love to delve right into it. But by the way, there's a lot of folks watching who are big fans of yours, and we see them. We're going to do let some shout outs and things like this every now and then. Hey, and if y'all know and love Prophet, let him know, make a comment. But also, since we're getting started, like, comment, share, definitely hit the like button, share this show with anybody, because Prophet wrote a book that everybody needs to get your hands on it. Get your hands on this book. So please share this with folks so that they can find out about, everything that he's talking about in this particular work of literature. Man, if I could, I wanted to start with one thing that I just kind of like blew me. It made me think about a lot of stuff that's going on today. And that was, believe it or not, the dedication that you wrote in your book. Everybody has a dedication, and I very rarely don't give a damn about them. It's always something, to my favorite niece, and, to Rollo and them when we was in second grade. And remember that time you stubbed your toe on a big wheel, something like, so what? Your dedication started off, I think, like you do. It grabbed your attention, but more importantly, and unless I'm missing something, your dedication makes folks think. So if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind reading it.
Please.
Cool. All right. So your dedication reads, this set is dedicated to the Black and brown educators of the world who are forced to stick to a preset curriculum irrelevant to the development of the Black and brown students under your care. We know you're trying to teach Black and brown kids information vital to their stratification, while also trying to stay employed within the system of white supremacy, which that part in and of itself is screaming at Florida. But
there it
we'll
is.
touch on that in a minute. That's some Florida shit if I ever heard it.
Yes,
I hope
indeed.
you're listening, Mr. DeSantis. But the second part of it is the concept of equal education should be abandoned in favor of a philosophy and approach appropriate to one's needs. The function of education and intelligence is to solve problems particular to a people and nation, and to secure that people's and that nation's biological survival. Any philosophy of education or approach which failed to do so is inadequate. And that was a quote by Dr. Amos Wilson. And damn, that's some hellified deep shit coming from some old black biker, quoting Dr. Wilson. And of course, the first part, that was all you.
That was all me.
Brother, damn.
Exactly. And like you said, man, we're living in a time where education is being hidden and it's being revised right up under our nose. Yeah. And to me, I put out these series of books because I want the people to know that I understand. I'm an educator too, man. I taught over at University of North Carolina at Charlotte for 2 years. And we have a set curriculum which we have to stick to. And anytime you dwell outside of that curriculum, you run the risk of losing your job. But how do you teach the Black and brown students under your care and give them the soul food that they need to survive? Like Dr. Amos said, education is about survival. Teaching me about Pythagorean's theory has nothing to do with my development as a Black man. I need soul food that's going to teach me how to survive. And so I understand there's a lot of educators out there who are trying to teach within this system. And this type of information in my book is dedicated to those educators.
Man, I'll tell you, this is interesting. Without having delved into your content, yesterday I was having a conversation with a certain brother from our club, and his wife is a teacher, and he and I were just talking about some stuff. And I'm always teasing at him about her, like we go back and forth and things. And she mentioned that she was getting ready because going back to school this week. I'm like, oh, okay, that's right. So I couldn't help but ask the question. So the question that I asked him, and he turned on the speakerphone, and he said, "Hey, my question was, how is it that you're now going to handle this whole thing in Florida where you're not allowed to teach children anything about the African-American experience, African-American AP studies, anything related to African-American that's now bad. You can only teach them pretty much that slavery was something cool that, taught you how to be a blacksmith was going to help out your whole family and all this." So, and I've teased on the show before that next thing you know, they're going to be trying to say that slavery was a VOTEC program for inner city youth over 400 years or some bullshit like this.
Exactly.
But what he said, or what she said is that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And she says, in the case of this particular educator, she said what she's going to find herself doing now is assigning kids research projects and encouraging them and trying to point them in the right direction without explicitly breaking the rules of these new DeSantis rules, which we ain't supposed to be, educating Black and brown students. Yeah. And she's got both. And I was like, wow, okay, it's intelligent. It's a hell of a great answer, but it's so shameful that that's something that folks even have to consider. Like, kind of like back in the day, like trying to teach Black folks how to read, you got to sneak and do it.
Exactly.
But yeah, anyway, let me shut up for a second. I know Archbishop had something he was going to say to you.
Well, I had a question kind of dealing with that. And in your introduction, you said the most crucial subject, young Black youth, because the history was the most crucial subject that most Black youth should submerge in it. Now, we can only go back so far due to our ancestors being taken away from Africa, put in slavery, and then like so much of that history, that past history has died. And they say that people without the knowledge of their history and origin or culture is like a tree without roots. So my question is how do you grow as without knowledge of our history, knowledge of where it came from?
Say it one more time.
So my question is how do you grow as a people without true knowledge of our history?
Yeah.
Because so much has been blocked off, without knowing exactly the other part as to where we came from, and what do we have to do to be able to get that history back?
Yeah, we do. So my thing is this, man. Even though history has been hidden from us, me, you, all of us are blessed to exist in the age of information. So I look at my mother's generation, and history was hidden from them, and they were just at the edge of enlightenment. You and I and Bone, we exist in a time of enlightenment. History that was hidden is now exposed. So I always look at it as like this. If you don't know your history at this point and you have no desire to get it, that's a product of ignorance. And you are essentially perpetuating your own demise. You and I, we all exist in a time where we can go out and find our history. And so that's my intervention into the world. This is my purpose. I live for this very reason, is to show people our history. And even though a lot of our history has been taken from us, authors like myself, researchers like myself, and then other scholars in the world have done a damn good job of excavating the archives and finding what we call hidden history and bringing it to the light. So now we have the opportunity to reshape our people and reprogram our minds so that we know our history definitively. And our generation, we're right on the cuff of enlightenment, right? We're right there on the edge where we are now learning who we truly are. There was a time where my parents couldn't trace their lineage no further back than 2, 3, 4 generations. Now, with the age of DNA,
sure,
with scholars, we can walk our history all the way back to a slave ship. I recently did my ancestry, and I learned that I had a relative who was on the Cotilda, which was last slave ship to come to America.
Louisiana, right?
In Alabama.
Alabama, right.
In Alabama. So, and that person is buried in a cemetery outside of Africatown, which was founded by the descendants of those in the Cotilda. So I say that to say that as we exist in the age of enlightenment, us as Black people, we have to take advantage of it because ignorance is no longer an excuse. The information is right there. And that is what I am going to die trying to do, is to educate these people and to motivate them so that they take my work and go even further and truly learn about our history, going back as far as we can.
You know, when I follow you, I'm kind of I'm a borderline nerdy, intellectual, biker ass individual. So I'm just all kinds of mixed up and confused. But a lot of times I know that the sort of content that you have, I follow it because I'm legitimate. I know you and I'm legitimately interested in what you have to say about stuff. Right. But how do you make it palatable for in particular younger people? And what I mean by that is I noticed there was one thing that you did, or the very first chapter, actually, you called the first chapter Tupac Shakur and the Vatican. Mm-hmm. So my thought was, from a marketing standpoint, I think, oh, well, damn, you just brought up Tupac. Anybody who's of a certain age, man, they're going to be like, what the hell is going on with Tupac in this book? Is this some hip hop theology or something like that? Or like, so was that done because this is relevant to the story? Or was that sort of like, if I'm talking about Tupac, somebody of a certain age is going to want to pay attention to that? Or was it, hey, this is good content that needs to be in this book?
Well, it's both of them. It's both of them. If you mention Tupac, you're automatically going to suck in a demographic of people. Tupac was very loved as an artist. He was loved as a prophet. He was loved as a philosopher. He was loved as a lot of things. But I also wanted to lace it with the Vatican. I knew that first chapter is there for a reason. I knew it would grab a lot of people's attention. Tupac and the Vatican. What connection could Tupac Shakur have with the Vatican? Right. And that's what my whole book is about, is uncovering information like that. Things that you would never even put together, never even think about. Tupac and the Vatican, how do they go together? But in my book, I talk about how they have a symbiotic connection to each other. And if you go through the rest of the book and the subsequent volumes that I'm putting out, all this information deals with just that. Hidden information that's going to grab you, information that's going to shake you, information that's going to change your way of thinking. It's going to challenge you. For instance, we all know about Bugs Bunny. We all grew up on this trickster rabbit called Bugs Bunny. But many of us don't know that Bugs Bunny was hijacked from a Black folklore called Brer Rabbit. Right. The Gullah Geechee people used to talk about a trickster rabbit called Brother Rabbit. They call him Brer Rabbit. Jamaicans used to tell the story of Brer Rabbit. So my entire volume of book is really about exposing information like that in a way that's easily digestible and easily researchable. I only give you the soul food to start you off. The expectation is that you read my book, read the chapter, and then run and go figure out more information. And that's what it's about. And then go tell somebody else and tell somebody else. This is how we learn.
That's it. It's palatable. Very, very palatable. That's the thing. So, yeah, brother. So
there was a part in your book that you didn't really go into it, but I knew about it. So I figured that I'd bring it up when you brought up the term that people use, cheaper by the dozen. I knew what it meant, but you didn't go fully into it. What I mean? So basically what it was that, like back during the slave trade, where they had old, disabled, or slaves that was no longer capable of doing hard work, they would sell them in groups of 12.
That's right.
And that started out in New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
So it's like terms like that we say every day, but not really know what the actual origin of it was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you touch on a great point. Cheaper by the dozen comes from a section where I talk about us playing the dozen. We all grew up snapping on each other, capping on each other, and all that. And I was surprised to learn that the origin of that comes from slavery days, where the enslaved people would essentially talk about each other, snap on each other in order to build mental resilience. Because if I can take you talking about me, snapping on me, getting on me, I should also build up mental resilience so that I can take the harsh words given to me by that master, that enslaver.
Yeah.
And so I was very surprised to learn the origins of snapping and capping. And again, that's what my book is about. It's about origin story. It deconstructs a lot of the things that we're familiar with, but we don't know exactly where they came from.
When you wrote about the lost village of Charlotte, North Carolina, and Brooklyn Village. So how much of that is real and applicable today versus is that just more of, everybody, it seems like a lot of folks nowadays know about Black Wall Street and what happened in Tulsa, but you mentioned something completely different that a lot of folks might not know. Like they might not know about that, or Eatonville, or Philadelphia in the 1970s, where there's only been 2 places in the United States where Americans bombed other Americans, actually dropped bombs on them, and that was Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then Philadelphia on the MOVE members who I knew as a kid.
Yeah.
And people go, that never happened. I'm like, yeah, they dropped napalm in Philadelphia. And people go, no, they didn't. Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
Absolutely, a whole city block. But so I guess, so going back to the question though, tell us about that. Brooklyn Village, the lost village of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Absolutely, man. I was doing some research for another book that I was writing, and I was looking at Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was looking at other cities around America that used to exist who were epicenters for Black culture and Black life that were somehow destroyed. I looked at my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio, and our city downtown, our village downtown was destroyed in order to construct I-75. And I was looking at Charlotte, North Carolina, and I learned about this place called Brooklyn Village. Now, the interesting part about it is Brooklyn Village, there is a street called Brooklyn Village, which is still in the 2nd Ward of Charlotte, North Carolina. But now in the 2nd Ward of Charlotte, North Carolina is what we call downtown, what we call uptown, which is high-rise buildings and everything. But it used to be an epicenter for Black life, Black culture. And so there are still remnants of Brooklyn Village. They have a street sign that shows that it's Brooklyn Village where it used to be. But I was very surprised to learn just how prominent Brooklyn Village was. What also surprised me is that fellow people of Charlotte, North Carolina had never heard of Brooklyn Village, which is essentially the driving point behind my book, is that the people in charge have a systematic way of erasing our history. What they had to do was they let generations die out. And there's no information that is passed on. We don't do a great enough job of passing on information to the next generation. And so if you're in charge, you kill off the warrior class, you kill off the scholars, and then you erase the history, and then that history is gone. The next generation has no idea about it. And that's a consequence of Brooklyn Village and other Black epic centers around America. Did Ron DeSantis call you for this information? Because that's kind of hey, Ron, if Ron knew my book was out, he would ban me.
You would be banned straight away. But I feel like what you said they was gonna do is what he's doing, like literally right now, because the warrior class is being decimated in Florida. Because if you're Black or you're brown, if there's any way to incarcerate you, we're gonna do that. That destroys the warrior class. By poverty, that between poverty and destroying education and history of self for Black and brown folks in Florida, guarantees that they're going to maintain a working class of folks. And I don't mean working class like middle income. No, I mean like poor folks. So the whole idea of running out the migrants, somebody's got to replace them, and we know it ain't gonna be white folks in them hotels and in them fields. So all of them folks who are newly released from being incarcerated, you can't get a regular job somewhere, because so now guess what you're doing? That. And if you got, and remember, you always got the slave labor from prisons, and we got more prisons in the state of Florida than any state in the United States.
I never knew that. Wow.
That's a fact. Google it. See, I love Google for that reason. But there's more prisons in the state of Florida than even in Louisiana, which Louisiana has a lot of them. They got famous prisons like
famous.
Yeah, what's that one?
Parchment Farms is. It used to be called Parchment Farms.
Yeah. What's that other one?
Angola.
Angola, right? That's the one I'm trying to think of. Angola, and they got prisons that are famous. We just got more of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not nicer or nothing like that. We just got more of them. What are you gonna do?
And speaking about that, from a historical perspective, Angola used to be called Parchment Farms.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's the name of it. It was initially called Parchment Farms. They renamed it to Angola, and the movie Life takes from Parchment Farms. Parchment Farms didn't have fences around it. All they had was white man and his gun.
Gunline boss. Yeah, the gunline boss.
Gunline. Yeah, they would shoot you. That's taken right from Parchment Farm.
That's the gunline boss.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's back in I think it's chapter 14. You was talking about Black Vikings, and in fact, now that was something I didn't know, that there were actually Black Vikings. And
absolutely.
We talk about Vikings today. I mean, none of them are actually portrayed as being Black. And information dealing with that is actually kind of difficult to find.
Yeah.
So you think that if we're able to teach our children the history, the true history, not his story, the true history. What are some of the places that some of our viewers can go to that will actually be able to find this type of history to be able to teach their children?
So for me, man, I found social media to be an awesome resource. I put a disclaimer out there. Everything on social media is not true. We have to know that. But social media serves as a great base, a great platform to start an investigation. The other thing is this. People have to learn not only to use Google, but to use Google Scholar. And there's a difference between Google and Google Scholar. Google will give you information that's out on the internet. Google Scholar will give you information that's out on the internet by scholars. It'll give you information directly from published books and articles that were written by scholars. So there's a difference between the two. So a lot of us need to learn to use Google Scholar as well. And additionally, my favorite thing is books. You can see behind me all these books back here, man. I have hundreds of books. I found books to be my greatest resource. And I'm a reader by trade. I just love to read. I was brought up in a reading environment. For those who don't read, though, watch a documentary. I watch a documentary every single day while I'm getting dressed. Every single day there's a documentary on. So for those who don't read, documentaries are a great resource for ingesting and digesting information.
Right on. Oh, by the way, my sister Kim, let me see if I can show my sister Kim, she's in Virginia. Clearly she's a big fan of yours. She says that's a B Queen to you. Says great show, brother Big Bone. That's my big sister Kim. Great guest, very knowledgeable. I'm buying the book. Love you, Kimberly. So hey, love you too, sister.
Peace and blessings.
But the thing is that there's rarely a time that you come on this show that folks don't stop what they're doing. If they catch the show, because I've heard people say, "Oh, I just turn it on and I'm listening to it as I'm driving or walking or doing whatever."
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you, every single time you're on this show, folks say, "Damn, I had to stop what I was doing and actually pay attention to you and Archbishop for a change." Some folks just watch us, but they plug in when you're on here, brother, because you drop this knowledge that's just so damn important to all of us. And of course, we're a biker show. You're a biker too, but I love, one of the things I love about you coming on here is because you prove every time you come on here that, guess what? Bikers are not monolithic. You know what I mean? We come from a lot of different backgrounds. We're a lot of different people. We have different levels of education, different life experiences, and you epitomize that. So again, we thank you for being here, but I got another question because I be trying to know shit. God's little acre. Like, if it's God's little acre, how come he's keeping it all to himself? How come we got a whole acre and a whole group of us can't get 40 of them. I need to understand, why is this a problem?
Listen, God's Little Acre, man. For those who don't know, God's Little Acre is a place where the first headstones for buried Black Africans is located. And that's very significant because Africans who were buried early on didn't have the privilege of receiving a headstone. But in God's Little Acres, there's over 300 headstones. And what happened there is that Black artists were able to create headstones for Black Africans who died. And so there's a piece in my second book, volume 2, where I talk about identifying the final resting place of enslaved people. One thing we don't realize is that when enslaved people were buried, they didn't have a headstone. They didn't have much to mark where they were buried. So enslaved people came up with a system on how to identify where they buried their kinfolk. So one of the things they did was they would use a yucca plant. A yucca plant is a plant that doesn't need a lot of watering, and it can grow. It grows for up to 5 years, sometimes up to 25 years. If a child was buried in an unmarked grave, they would put quartz on top of the grave, pink quartz. Wow. Sometimes they would stack up rocks in a triangle. Other time they would stack sticks crisscross. These were all little things to mark the graves of Africans without the system of white supremacy knowing what it is. So they couldn't desecrate it because they didn't know where it was. But this is the ingenuity of my people and how we came up with things. And so even today, as archaeologists are looking for the graves of enslaved people who died early on, they still look for the yucca plant. They still look for certain things in the soil. They still look for these things that we came up with. For instance, in a cemetery in Milledgeville, Georgia, they use something called a link system. And this is where an artist would make a link and he would put it on the place where they were buried. And if he had one link, that mean they were born into slavery. If you had 2 links on it, that mean they were born into slavery, but they died free. But if it had 3 links on it, that mean they were born into slavery, lived as an enslaved person, and died in slavery. So the system of white supremacy.
That's 3 links.
That's 3 links.
3 links.
The system of white supremacy never knew what the links were for. But this again is the ingenuity of our people and how we talk to future generations.
You know, you just answered a question for me, which was, so you know, are you familiar with Rosewood in Florida?
Absolutely. Okay, 1924.
So, yes, sir. So Rosewood, I've been there a couple of times, and they have these monuments that are to this day, right hand of Jesus. To this day, the Rosewood sign, it has to be replaced periodically because there's still those, you know, the white supremacist minded, you know, hateful ass folks who are still mad about something that happened almost 99 years ago.
Yeah.
And they shoot the sign that says Rosewood as you're going into it. So there's all kinds I actually picked them up, all kinds of different shell casings in front of or on your way up to the sign. But the monuments, for the most part, they're left relatively intact. So one of the things that I found the first time I went there, I didn't understand it, was pine cones on the monument. You'll see money and coins and you know, sometimes paper money, sometimes coins. And then the weirdest thing that I saw was pine cones. I was like, what the hell is up with these pine cones? And like, why is it? Because it's a couple of different things. So long story short, I was able to find out that the pine cones are reminiscent of the children that escaped from Rosewood. They ran out into the woods and they covered themselves in pine cones. They hid. And that people remember, hey, the children had to hide out in the woods whilst their families and friends were being murdered and slaughtered in Rosewood. And so that's some sort of a way to remember it. And I was like, so, but you know what I'm saying? Like, first time you go out there, this made no damn sense to me whatsoever. I'm like, well, somebody's trying to be funny. I'm like, that must mean something. And then when I found it out, it was, so that's something clearly that's left over from the time that slavery was prevalent in this country.
Absolutely.
So it just goes to our resilience as a people, I think.
It is. And our ingenuity, man, how we think. And, you know, under pressure, there's no greater race of people who is able to manifest and to rise above under pressure than the African and the African American and the Africans in the diaspora. You put us under pressure, we're going to come up with some stuff. We always have, and we always will.
Right on.
Mm-hmm. I got a question for you, Prophet. On, I think it was like in your earlier part of your book, you spoke about women's bodies being, how you spoke about Black women's bodies being policed. And they died doing greater numbers doing based on pregnancy and childbirth compared to other women. Do you feel that the anti-abortion laws were put into place not to terminate the child, but in hope of terminating the mother, because the mother's a source of reproduction?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I do, man. So I've been following this thing with Roe versus Wade and walking back Roe versus Wade, and really been trying to give it a lot of thought. To me, man, I read a great book, and I recommend this book to everybody. It's called Medical Apartheid. And it really talks about how the white doctor is to the Black woman what the white police officer is to the Black man. Wow. And I thought that was very, very important because Black women are dying at such a high rate when it comes to childbirth and through any of our medical procedures. So one of the things that I put in this book here is I talk about the difference between a standing birth and a lying down birth. And I had to learn that initially Africans were more prevalent to the standing birth because the standing birth produces or it reduces the chance of infantile, right? Children dying during birth. It gives more oxygen to the child and to the mother. It reduces pain. But the reason we have a lying down birth is no more than King Louis, who liked to look at women's vaginas during childbirth. And because he was king, all of Europe followed what he did, and that carried over to the Americas. So when we talk about infant mortality, man, and we talk about this abortion law and where it's going, I really challenge my people to be extra cautious and to be extra knowledgeable about going to white doctors who don't have our best interests at heart. I read a book not too long ago about midwives, Black women who were prevalent during childbirthing sessions, and how we gotten rid of the midwife today. Most women just go to the hospital and they trust the doctor to do the right thing. Back in the days, we had midwives, and these were women who understood the process of childbirth. They had the woman and the child's best interest in heart, and they've been doing this for generations. They knew how to deliver a child, and we were able to bring sustain our population through that way. The way women are dying now and abortion just being a part of that, I really think abortion is a larger agenda than what is put out there. I really think that abortion has to do with population control. I really think that abortion has to do with reducing the population of Black and brown people while reducing the population of eligible women who can have babies. And therefore, if you reduce the population of your so-called enemy, it gives you a hand up in this eternal revolutionary struggle.
I have been saying that. I'm over here jumping up and down on the inside. I'm jumping up and down. I know Archbishop give me the eye because he's heard me say this 40 times. But that's I've been believing that for a while. I've actually spoke to, in fact, there's a number of books that were written on this subject. And the thing is that there were a lot of predictions that by the year 2030, white folks will no longer be the dominant race, if you will, in the United States. And the idea of maintaining their supremacy is something that is hugely important to those folks that recognize the benefit of their so-called superiority, right? So in plain speaking, a lot of white women get abortions. A lot of white women get abortions, actually, almost to from a aggregate number. Well, not from an aggregate number, but from a percentage basis, the numbers are rather similar as far between black and white women. But in order for white folks to remain the majority, they got to stop having abortions. So
Right.
now what we see is abortion. It's not really a religious thing. They try to pass it off as religious. But if you think about it this way, these same folks who don't want abortions to be had by these white women are the same exact folks that are okay with police killing black men. They're okay with black men being put to the death penalty without actually being legitimately properly convicted. They're okay with black people dying, but they want abortion to stop. Why? Because so many white women get abortions. If you stop killing black, if them white babies keep getting born, they maintain their position. So it has nothing to do, as far as what we're seeing in the government, what we see from the so-called conservatives, it has nothing to do with religion or any of that. It just doesn't. It's now the part two of it is that we have to be more conscientious about taking care of our own. The village has to be stronger. We have to be smarter, so that these little girls that are 14, 15 years old in dire circumstances, maybe they don't need to be having babies. But if they do have babies, then that's when the village needs to kick in and do what we do.
The village, man. Absolutely. The village. You said it best. The village. And the reality of it is, we're not going to stop young women from having babies, right? They're going to have babies. They've been having babies since the beginning of the time. But the village has to be there to say, okay, you had a baby. Let's raise this baby in an environment of love and health and bring this baby up so they can be part of the collective community. The village is so important. And I stress this all the time, man. It pains me to see how divided the village is. And if I were king for a day, my sole agenda would be unity, to unite the village. I always look at my heroes like Malcolm X, and I look at my heroes like Marcus Garvey, anybody in the Pan-Africanism movement, and they always go back to the same thing, which is unity. Yeah. If you can unite people, black and brown people around the world, we become we are the global majority, but we're divided. And anytime we're divided, we're separated, we're easily controlled, we're manipulated. But the moment anybody stands up and unifies, you can see the fear in the enemy's eyes. You can see how the enemy starts to rally around that and institute things to break that up. They know, just like I know, that if there comes a time where Pan-Africans unite, the game is over.
Oh, yeah. If you look at the continent, notice I didn't say the country, the continent of Africa, if that continent was to get on the same page, if we look at just over the past several hundred years, Africa has been spliced and diced and divvied up like somebody was playing spades or something, as far as who owned what in Africa. These are African folks. And don't even get me started on the name of Africa is not really the name of that continent. That's a whole other subject. But my point is that same ideology of colonialism that the Europeans and the Portuguese, the French, the Italian, that all of those countries instituted on Africa, it's the same ideology here, and if you wanted to just dumb it down all the way, it's divide and conquer. Mm-hmm.
And literally
that,
literally divide.
We have to understand that and move different. We have to move different.
Yeah.
I mean, and matter of fact, speaking, it's Biker Show, that needs to happen on the set as well. Exactly. If there's those of us who are a part of a certain organization where, Lord knows, if we don't understand that, who does? We have got to embrace the ideology of us. It don't mean you spoke about something last time you were on the show. You spoke about tribalism, and a lot of people was really digging that. And I know you probably know where I'm going with this, but the fact that we look all the same way and we come from that same African diaspora does not mean that we're hating this one, hating that one, hating on the other one. It means we're familiar with this. It's a tribal attitude of taking care of home, which when we do it, it's somehow, then the racists want to say, oh, that's racism. Mm-hmm. When they do it, that's just America.
That's just America.
It's okay, right? But anyway, but I digress. I wanted to say one thing super quick. if y'all are digging this, I'm watching the comments flying in. Don't be shy. If y'all got a question for Doggone Prophet, for Archbishop, or myself, give a call, ask your question. We'd love to hear from you. But I'm going to throw up the number in just a second. But yeah, and also if you didn't do it already, look, Prophet's on here. He's doing his thing. Hit the like button, share this with somebody, and y'all call in if you want to ask a question, comment, concern, any of that. Y'all do that. But as you were saying, brother, I'm sorry, Archbishop, you was going to say something, brother.
No, I was just sitting here thinking about different stuff I had read in that book, and you had talked about a section there where Malcolm X had a meeting with the Klan, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad explained that the Nation of Islam did not want segregation but separation. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you could enlighten the viewers on what exactly that meant. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So just for context, for the people who don't know, there was a secret meeting between Malcolm X, members of the Nation of Islam, and members of the Georgia Ku Klux Klan. And they had this secret meeting in order to talk about segregation and separation. The Klan proposed that they take over everything north of the Mason-Dixon line. That was the Ku Klux Klan plan. We want to take over everything north of the Mason-Dixon line, and you N-words can have everything in the South. You can have it all. We don't want it. We want everything where that's industrialized. Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a different thing. They wanted separation from white folks who were not invested in the stratification of black folks. And that's different because segregation means that we do things segregated. We do things apart. We're all together, but you have yours over here. We have ours over here. You got your bathrooms. We got our bathrooms. Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, well, we don't need you. We can sustain ourselves. We don't need you at all. We want separation from you. The Klan wanted separation, but they wanted from a geographical perspective. They wanted to divide the entire nation up. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X said, no, you can't get New York. You can't get Harlem. You can't get Ohio. You can't get Detroit and just push us to the South. But we don't need you at all. And so at the end of the meeting, there was no resolution between the two groups. And what's interesting that came out of that meeting is why I'm a big fan of Minister Malcolm X. As we all know, there was a contentious relationship between Malcolm X and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. The Klan were asking Malcolm X, where's the address of Dr. King, so that they can neutralize Dr. King. And Malcolm X was very adamant in saying that we will protect Dr. King with our lives. Even though they had a contentious relationship, Malcolm knew the importance of, I must protect my fellow black man from you, even if I don't have a great relationship with him. And I think that's something that we can all take and ingest into ourselves and really begin to understand. I don't have to be your best friend. I don't even have to have a great relationship with you. But I recognize that you are my brother, and I am not going to let this outsider neutralize you.
Right on. Well said. That's I think this is why I love what we do, because folks, and don't get me wrong, we could talk about the new CVO all day long, and there's nothing wrong with that.
That's a nice bike, though.
I'm kind of digging it. But you know what? I think it's so important the new CVO is great, but guess what? What happens before and after we get on that bike, and a lot of times while we're on that bike, is really important. Knowledge is power. Somebody, I think folks have written that like 2 or 3 times tonight in the comments. Knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. And man, if we can't get this right, then we might as well park that damn bike, because they're gonna come and take that soon anyway if we don't get this right. Absolutely. But yeah, man. If we can, let's take a real quick little commercial break type situation, and we're gonna be right back with Prophet, the doggone Prophet. Hold on one second, y'all.
I decided to pursue a career in law because it gives me an opportunity to help people. When a client chooses us to represent them, they're entrusting us with a huge responsibility. It's our goal to exceed their expectations with our personalized service and to help them to achieve the best possible recovery to compensate them for their injuries.
That's where we come in. We come in and we solve that problem for them and really set them on the right track in order to try and get back to what their life was like before the accident happened.
See, that was real quick. Just had to say hey to some folks. But yeah, man. But I'll tell you what, I think if everybody, and again, you said it a few different times. You spoke about unity. You spoke about the allegiance that the brother minister had with Martin Luther King. Even though, again, contentious relationship, if we can figure that out, man, we might be all right. We really might be all right.
On that note, man, I heard a quote not too long ago. It said, "The sky is big enough for birds of a feather to all flock together." And it truly is. And that can be applied to anything. It can be applied to the motorcycle world. The streets are long enough for all of us to ride them. All of us. It's enough highway for all of us to get on these motorcycles and ride free. And we just have to understand that.
Oh, yeah. And, so here I go. I heard another quote, which goes, Republicans and Democrats are two wings of the same bird. Okay, I said that. That was me to say that. But and because a lot of times, a lot of the conversation that we're having, people, especially in Florida, everything's real political right now because we've got this governor that's trying to just basically fuck over the whole state because of his racist ideologies and because of a whole lot of other things. But people get confused about, in fact, someone told me, "Oh, well, you're a biker, so that means you're a conservative Republican." I'm like, where the hell did you get that idea from? Like, well, bikers. So what's happened is people have painted this narrative that if you're a biker, especially if you're in a club, you're supposed to think a certain way. And that's just, again, bikers are not monolithic. Just like people aren't, just like black people are not, just like brown people are not. I spoke to a cat earlier today who was a Cuban from South Florida. It wasn't shocking to me that he was a big old Trump fan, and he was telling me all of this stuff. And I mean, he was QAnon all the way. He was a full-blown QAnon, Jewish space lasers and all that old stuff, right? Gotcha. And I remember having the thought to myself, this is one of those times where I'm not going to even waste all of my oxygen or get frustrated or try to educate, because he was of a certain age. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I hear you. Thanks for sharing. Kept it moving. Because the truth is something that is hard to digest. A little earlier, I was talking when you mentioned when we were talking about your first chapter about Tupac. Well, that's palatable, but there's nothing that's going to be too palatable to a fellow who's had 40 years conditioning that this is what I think, this is what I believe. Because at this point, it becomes tribal. Like you said before, it becomes tribal. So it doesn't matter. Facts don't have anything to do with how this fellow is going to move or vote. So at that point, I'm going to save that effort and that energy to talk to some of the boneheads and some other folks who might actually want to learn a thing. So that's why we're so blessed to have you here today, because, you do that better than anybody I know, brother. You do the damn thing, And
one of the things I learned with people like that, like you were talking to, man, is people look for information that's going to confirm their bias. So they form a bias, they form an ideology, and then they only seek information that's going to reaffirm what they think they already know. And any outside information is going to be combative to them. So that's a that it's really challenging for them to open up their ears and learn something new. And we see this all the time when you present new information to people and it doesn't fit into the box that they've already constructed, they immediately get defensive. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to understand it. And I challenge all of us to be more absorbent of information and then go back and do further research on it. And so whenever I talk to somebody from the other side who supports that cult, I always want to gauge where they are in their box, in their bias. if I sense that, hey, you have a bias, but you're willing to listen, I'm willing to talk. But once I sense that you have a bias and your bias cannot be intervened upon, that you are
Right.
so locked into your bias, I don't have anything to talk about.
No, I feel you. By the way, my brother just corrected me. The move bombing was 1985, and I should know that because I was literally there as a kid. So yeah, because I'm old. It was 1985 that the bombings on Move happened in Philadelphia. And I mistakenly said the 70s. In my head, I was thinking I was in Philly in the 70s, but that actually did happen in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
But so if anybody's not familiar with that, hey, look it up. True facts. They dropped napalm, blew up a whole city block trying to kill some folks who was on the Back to Africa movement. They were called the Move members.
A great documentary on it as well on Amazon.
Is it really?
Prime.
Are you kidding me right now?
Great documentary on it.
What is it called?
Dude.
I don't know what it's called. I think it's on Amazon Prime. On the PBS series under Amazon Prime.
Oh damn! I gotta check
watch
that
a
out.
great documentary on it.
My sister's watching tonight, and so when we were kids, my mother headed up an organization. Her and some of her girlfriends founded. I say her girlfriends, but Roxanne Jones. If you're in Philadelphia, everybody knows who that is. And C. Dolores Tucker, who, speaking of Tupac, who he mentioned. Yeah. So C. Dolores Tucker and Roxanne Jones and my mother started a group called CIA, which was Citizens in Action. And she did the the editorial on the Channel 6 Evening News. For those of y'all up north, y'all know what that is. But so we spent a lot of time with these Move people because they were really they were on a Back to Africa movement. They were all vegetarians, and as kids we thought they were weird because I'd never seen dreadlocks before, and every one of these folks had dreads, and they smelled funny because they believed in all natural everything. They didn't smell like ivory; they smelled like patchouli or whatever the hell that was. You know, like the plants and flowers, and these folks wasn't bothering nobody. What they were was different, and what they were was they wasn't trying to buy into what America or what Pennsylvania at that time was trying to sell. They wanted to go back to damn Africa, and for that they had to die. And for those that didn't die, they got sent to prison. And it was a horrible thing. And I need to see that documentary, brother. I'm going to look that up. I'm definitely going to look that up.
You know what? I got one here. In part of your book, you was talking about gangs, which is that's a lot of things that's going on these days. That's all you hear in mainstream media is gang. But you know, gangs were actually created to protect the community that they were in. Now but you was also talking about children that was ranged from 7 to 18 that was out with the movement, marching with the groups, 10 to 15, you know, they knew what the consequences were for doing it anyway, because it was something that they believed in. Now, it's like our people and our children are like complete opposite of that. So my question is, you know, why is it? I mean, like, I know that it's because, you know, like some people say it's the music. Some people say that it's social media. But even with that, education begins at home. So my question is that what is it that the younger generation, I'm talking about younger parents, what is it that they're missing? Why isn't it that they're instilling, you know, because we're older, you know what I mean? And we learned from the old heads when we used to run around and whatever, and you know, and Big Mama, you know, and they how to move, you know what I mean? And you know, nowadays you have, you know, Big Mamas go. You got grandmothers now that's 35 years old and they run in the street with their daughters and they run into the clubs. They, you know, chasing after the same dude in the whole bit. So the kids now are losing drastically. What is it that we can do as older people to be able to, you know, put this back into the right perspective as to, you know, as you spoke of earlier about regaining that that village, because nowadays, when you go to try to about their kid, the first one they gonna say is, "Don't talk about my damn kid. I do what I want to do."
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Or when we were young, you walk around and a neighbor beat your ass and then call your mama and then send you home, and then you go home and get your ass whipped again because your neighbor had to beat your ass.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
what is it that has to be reset in the minds of this younger generation to get them back on track to be, because if you ever talking about trying to unify us as a group, as a culture, you have to, there's other things that have to come into play. You know what I mean? They can't just be just rocking for the simple fact that, oh, it's 1,000 black people down the street marching, we're gonna jump in, but you don't know what the hell you're jumping in for.
That's right.
And so what is it that we can do to be able to change this narrative that's now being pushed out to these kids?
So here it is, man. Tupac said, nowadays the streets do the majority of the raising. The streets do the majority of the raising.
Facts.
And if the streets are going to do the majority of the raising, we have to understand that our young people are going to look up to their heroes who are in the streets. The streets being their heroes who are on pop culture, Hollywood, our music. These are their heroes, sports figures. Their heroes are not their dad. Their heroes are not civil rights leaders. Their heroes are not Pan-Africans. They don't have those heroes like we once had. Their heroes are LeBron James. Their heroes are Young Dolph, Pop Smoke. Their heroes are the next great actor. So if we're going to recognize that our young people are being raised by who they consider to be their heroes, that's who they're emulating. That's who they're looking at. That's who they're following after. That's who they want to be. And it becomes incumbent upon those people who know they have young people following them to start changing who they are in a way that conditions the young mind for stratification. So Charles Barkley used to say, I'm nobody's role model.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to be or not, there are people who look up to you. They consider you to be a hero. You're their hero. And so I always said that these people who are in a position to have a bunch of people who look at them and decide, I want to emulate them, you now have the responsibility to steer people in the right direction. So those who have the ability also have the responsibility to do what is right when it comes to raising our next generation. And so when we look at what a hero is and how people look up to heroes, that right there to me is everything, because you can put a message out today. Our heroes can be far more impactful to the next generation than a parent can. A parent talks to a child every single day and can say the same thing over and over and over. But if their hero says it, it becomes gospel to them.
Oh, yeah.
That's the power of a hero. And I think our heroes then need to understand that and say, hey, I understand that I'm an artist and I'm going to put out my type of art, but I also have people looking at me and I need to put out something that engages the next group of people. And this is why I'm such a fan of Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur was so many things in one. On one hand, he gonna call you a bitch. He gonna get at you. He gonna call you a bitch. He gonna say, first off, fuck your clique and the clique, all that.
And the clique you claim. Don't get me started.
On the next hand, he's gonna talk about how Brenda had a baby. He's gonna talk about how his mama was a crack fiend but still a black queen. You see what I'm saying? So even if you're gonna be an artist, you have to understand that you're a hero to the next generation, and it's incumbent upon you to conduct yourself as a hero and always thinking about bringing up the next generation behind you.
Right.
You know, I was going to tell you let me see, how do I phrase this, Prophet? But fuck your clique and the clique you claim. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Look, man, I love the shit out of some Tupac.
I love him.
You know, when Tupac passed away, I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was running a company, and I was working for, as my mother used to say, some nice white folks. And I was running this company, and I found out Tupac died, and I was busted up and destroyed. And I had, half of my employees, easily half of my staff was much younger people. And I said, man, we're going to have to close early today. They said, what happened? What happened? And so I said, and to the black and brown folks, I said, well, y'all, they got him. Pac died. And when I said that, and I said it just like that, I said, Pac died, they killed him. And when I said that, like 3-4 girls was crying and all this kind of stuff. And I noticed some of the white folks was confused and like, was that a relative of yours? And I was like, oh shit. So I shut down, sent everybody home. And I remember in hindsight, I'm thinking, damn, I wonder, is that what my aunts and uncles, my older family members, I'm like, I wonder, is that what they did when they found out Martin Luther King died? And I say it in jest now, but that was a devastating moment, I think, for Black America, because like him or hate him, Tupac was, the closest thing that a lot of us saw as being a revolutionary. Or speaking about. Now, since we're talking about arts and entertainment, music and like that, you'd have to flash way back to BDP, Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One, and those cats, because it was a long time from them until Pac that you was getting any of that kind of message. You know what I'm saying?
Music,
it was a long time, because the industry, they wanted to glorify gangster rap and that kind of thing, and they wanted to glorify, like even Tupac's early days with doggone what do you call it?
Underground.
Digital Underground. Oh, hey, they're with that because that was just a bunch of foolishness. But once you start talking about something serious and people are listening, especially young people listening, oh man, Tupac, he had to go anyway. Not that he needed to go, but he had to go.
He had to go. He was a threat. He was absolutely a threat to the establishment.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. That's facts.
What's most of the music today? A beat and a hook. Half these kids don't know a damn thing to what they saying, because it sounds like a bunch of little whiny ass bitches on there anyway.
Absolutely.
A lot of people can resonate with Pac and KRS-One and Public Enemy and BDP and all, because there's the actual message there, just like old R&B. There was an actual message.
Yeah, facts.
But, message.
Throughout the years dealing with the industry, the industry changed, because just like Bone said, they wanted to promote that gangster rap, and they wanted to. You got these guys now. Half these guys that's rapping right now ain't as tough as they seem that they are.
Nope.
Or that they rap that they are.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like Pop Smoke and a lot of the other ones is dead right now for what they were portraying to the world that they were. You know what I mean? Now you got these kids that's idolizing these people, but then you have guys like RZA X that's not popular enough to where but he actually has a message. If you actually listen to what he's saying, he actually has a message behind what he's saying. So it's like, no matter what you try to do, the industry, whether it's the industry, whether it's social media, whether it's mainstream media, whatever, as a Black and brown individual, you are already going to be under the gun. You know what I mean? Because their initial target is not us older folks, because we know better. They target children who don't.
Absolutely.
I mean, and when you think about it, you got most of these, most of the Black and brown men, a lot of them are sitting behind bars right now. I mean, so the whole family dynamic is not the way it was supposed to be. I mean, this ain't good times, and you ain't gonna come home and see James Evans in Florida. They're raising their kids.
Right.
Not gonna happen.
They have it down to, I know a couple of people that has went and like applied for assistance or whatever, and because the father lived in the house, they wasn't able to get assistance. But once their father left, they gave him everything they wanted.
Absolutely.
So they go in there and lie and say, well, no, he ain't around, because they know that they can get it then, because as soon as they see that the father actually lives there in the house, that they're not going to give you any help. You know what I mean? So, so once you think about it, you think that you are actually predisposed for failure. They're looking for you to fail. They want you to fail. You know what I mean?
It's the plan. It's the conditioning. That's what it is.
You're not going to see liquor stores on every corner in the white neighborhood. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because they want you to kill yourselves. That's what they want you to do. You know what I mean?
They want you to do.
Right, because when you put that on the TV, that's what they want to see. They want to see the fact that you're sitting here killing each other. You know what I mean? Want to see the fact that you sitting here, you know, this gang going against this gang or this club going against this club. They want to see that shit.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And you know what they don't want to see? They don't want to see what happened in Alabama yesterday, where those black people got together and retaliated against that violence. They don't want to see that.
Let me tell you, I saw that. I was getting those videos. I must have got it 15 times today. And one of my sisters sent it to me, and I was like, So I had to check myself. I'm like, On the one hand, I said to myself, look at the people taking care of that man. But then, you know, like the politician in me wants to say, look at the people watching out for that man who was treated wrongly. But the fact that I'm not freaking blind makes me say, hey, wait a minute, this is in Alabama. I'm not blind or stupid. So I'm like, okay, you know, these folks that are protecting that man who is there, you know, what happened to Back the Blue? All them folks that was beating up on that man, that's that Back the Blue crowd, which seems like they only want to back the blue as long as the blue ain't black, and as long as their boss, that orange dude, didn't tell them to do different. Yep. I'm like, come on now. But I was actually, I'll be honest with you, I was kind of proud to see that. Not that the big melee happened, but I was proud that them folks said, no, you ain't gonna do my brother like
Not
this.
today.
Not today, and not in Alabama, damn it. Nope. I was like, yes. I was like, I can't even lie to you. I watched that about 30 minutes before we started the show because somebody else sent me another video. Because now, you know, they done edited the hell out of that video.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly. So like, wow. You know how my people are. They're gonna put it to music next and make it into a documentary.
Hell yeah. Like the internet never fails.
Never.
I was like, wow. Yo, so a lot of folks are digging this topic. A lot of folks are. I guess we struck a chord with the Tupac conversation, but you know what? There's just so much that brother. When I tell you, you hit it out of the park with this doggone book, man, because you hit on so many different subjects. I wanted to ask you about another one, which seems a lot of the titles of your chapters are so very avant-garde. Pretty girls smoke too. No, they don't. Let's argue. Pretty girls don't smoke. Everybody knows that, don't they?
Man, listen.
The
fastest growing demographic of cigar smokers is black women. Yeah. So if you're in the industry, this is a statistic that you need to know, especially if you're in the industry where you're in the industry from an economic base. You want to make money off the industry. The fastest growing demographic of black women smokers is black women. And these three black women started this cigar line. These three Afro-Cuban women started a cigar line. And I'm so proud of them for doing this, which is the first black women-owned cigar line in America. And I really wanted to highlight their story in my book, because what they're doing is they're laying the groundwork for other women. Now, I know I got a friend of mine right now who just started her own cigar line, following those very same steps that these three women have done. And for women to get into what's normally considered a male-dominated arena, to get into this arena and be successful, man, I give kudos to those sisters who did that.
Oh, right on. Right on. So the question was, are y'all going to open the lines for us to call in? Yes, the phone lines are open. Please call in if you have any questions, comments, concerns, any of that. I think you need to you should call in immediately and make sure that everybody knows that Prophet is not as good looking as me and Archbishop. We've been having this discussion for quite a while. Nobody seems to understand. Nobody believes us, but for real, look, y'all take a minute, call in. You know, we definitely want to hear from you. So give a call in if you care to. But nah, man, but I'm telling you, what you're putting down is like some wonderful, wonderful stuff. You always do. I'm going to ask you again. Dead Presidents, the true story of the Hollywood movie.
Absolutely, man. I thought this was a fascinating story, man. I was reading a book called Bloods, and it's about the Black experience in Vietnam. And I came across this section in there about a young kid named Hayward T. Kirkman. And I was reading about Hayward T. Kirkman and what he did. And I was like, man, this sounds so familiar. Turns out that the movie Dead Presidents was based off the real life experience of Hayward T. Kirkman. Hayward T. Kirkman was a Black man in Vietnam. And once he got out of Vietnam, he came back to the hood, and he was just like most Black Vietnam vets living in poverty. And so he decided to do something. So they concocted this plan to rob an armored car. And they laid the groundwork for this plan. They laid an ambush the exact same way they laid an ambush in Vietnam. And the difference between the movie and real life is that in the movie, everybody got killed. They all went to jail at the end of the movie, yada, 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 for the ones who didn't get killed. Where in real life, the armored car heist went off without a hitch. And they were able to run off with $30,000. And they took that money and they brought it back to the ghetto. And they staffed the clinic. They paid a bunch of people's bills. They bought meals and all type of medicine. They did all these great things for the residents of the ghetto until the FBI. Yeah, until the FBI came knocking, and Hayward T. Kirkman ended up going to prison for armed robbery. But he was a local folk hero, and that movie is completely based off of his real life events.
Okay, well, bro, we've got somebody's trying to call us. Let's see if let's try it again because we're missing call. Let's see. Hey, hello, and thank you for calling the Big BoneYard. You are on the show, and you got myself, Big Bone 1%er, Archbishop 1%er, and Doggone Prophet LODO. Who in the whole wide world is calling us today? Hello? Okay, all right, let's try it. Let's try and call them back because it seemed like whoever that is, they've called several times. Let's see who they are. It's probably a bill collector. Hey, I think we missed your call. This is Big Bone 1%er calling you from the Big BoneYard. You got Archbishop 1%er on the phone, and you got Prophet LODO on the doggone line. Who is this?
This is Marie.
Marie, hey, what's going on, Marie? How you doing?
I'm great. How you all doing?
Good, man. Thank you for calling. I saw you had said the message, and so yeah, we're definitely taking calls.
Okay. So I have a question for Prophet, or really any of you all can answer if you so choose to. But do you think, because I'm all about unity, as you all know, I'm very much for Black and Brown coming together. Do you think that a lot of the issues, because, prior to a lot of our men going to prison, they're really good friends. But once they get into the system, they come out hating each other. Do you think that plays a major role in us actually uniting? I mean, that seems to be like part of the system's MO, is to get us to hate each other.
Can I let me jump in there a little bit with that one. And let's see, not bragging on the subject, but since I've on an occasion or two been a guest of the state, county, or whatever, I've been a guest. So here's what happens, and I think to properly answer your question, that we really have to be specific. So what happens is this: when you're talking about incarceration, somebody goes in one way, they come out a different way. So a couple of things. One, depends on geographically speaking, where they are, because county, if we're talking about in Florida, county don't mean nothing. There's no overwhelming specific race relation rules that happen in county in Florida. Now, if you go to state or feds, you're talking a different situation, because there, like I have a white friend of mine from years ago. He was getting locked up, as we say in Florida, he was going up the road. Up the road means that's not county. That means up the road is state or feds. So he's going up the road. And when he was doing what they call, when he was doing the initial classification, one of the questions is, well, what religion are you? He's a white guy. He's Irish, red hair. He said, I'm a Odinist, Odinist, Odinist. So a lot of folks go, what the hell is an Odinist? That means that he's follows the Viking religion. Well, the reason he said he was an Odinist is because he wanted to make sure that when he went up the road, they was going to put him with a bunch of white boys who are also Odinists. Why? Because he's going up the road, and he needs to make sure they put his ass with a bunch of white folks, because in prison, not in county, in prison, everything is based on race. If you're black, you fuck with black folks. If you're Spanish, you fuck with Spanish folks. And let's be specific. We're talking, if you're Mexican, that's different than Latino, like Puerto Rican, Cuban, Dominican. That's different, right?
Absolutely.
So, right. So now, and if you white, you fucking with a bunch of them white supremacists. You fucking with the AB, or not Archbishop AB, but Aryan Brotherhood AB. That's who you deal with. Right. And there's none of this. Yo, that's my homeboy from second grade. We're best friends. We lived next door for 20 years. When you go to prison, you don't know that motherfucker. And if you do know that motherfucker, the folks the folks that look like you, they got a problem with you now. And your ass ain't worth shit, because you're going to get fucked up. That's what happens in prison. Some guys get institutionalized because they've been in prison for so long that when they get out, they bring that prison shit with them. They're institutionalized. But the thing to remember is that with black and brown folks, a huge part of our populations are incarcerated. So it's up to, here we go with the village again. It's up to the village to unindoctrinate them folks and say, hey, look, that's what you were doing there to survive. That's the way that the system was set up, so that the COs and the prison itself could manage things better. They needed, the prisons need that separation, that segregation. They need that hate to go on so that they can manage shit better. It's not for our benefit. I mean, as Prophet said earlier, we're going to make the best out of a bad situation. We're going to do the best that we can to come up, no matter what situation we're in. So in that environment, we do what we got to do. But when you're not in that environment, how do you segue from that penal institution mindset into, hey, I'm back out here in the regular world, you know? So, and I'm not saying that all of that way of thinking is horrible. The thing that people should embrace when they come out of prison from that experience is, let me care about my own folks. Nothing wrong. You don't mean you hate everybody else, but you got to take care of home, right? So having said that, I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but I'm telling you what the situation is. The situation is that folks get indoctrinated for survival purposes in prison, and they have a hard time shaking it sometimes when they get out and applying it to where we are right now. You know, but
right. But with all that being said, you know, you say we have to get out and take care of our own.
Yes.
Well, if we do the history on it, you know, let's look at it. I mean, according to science, the oldest skeletal remains were that of a Black woman. So with that being said, would it not be fair to say that that is where we all originated from? And if that is where we all originated from, then would it not be fair to say that we should unite because we are truly one?
When was the last time you were in prison?
Well, that's not even important.
No. My point is my point is I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I'm saying I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I'm trying to be funny. But my point is though, is that as much as what you're saying. No, I hear you, and I'm not, and I understand what you're saying. Now, female prisons are a little bit different than male prisons. But what I'm suggesting to you is this: is that as much as what you said is nothing but the absolute gospel, it gets lost in translation once those bars slam shut behind you. And unfortunately, yeah, go ahead.
No, but still, I mean, it still goes back to my question is this, is if we all come from the same place, I mean, then should we all not be looking out for each other?
Yeah, I agree.
You said we need to look out for our people. So if we all come from that Black woman, then just because my ancestors, as far back as I can trace them, come from Mexico, that is not where we originated from, right?
Right. Sure. No, I don't disagree with you.
So then when you say take care of our own, should we not be taking care of each other? Because
Absolutely.
we are truly related. We come from the same place.
Absolutely.
So then why the hate?
There shouldn't, I wish there was not. But what happens is kind of what I was saying a little while ago is that, and I want y'all brothers to chime in on this as well, please. But what I was saying is what happens is you get these brothers that black and brown and even white, black, brown, white, they get out of prison, especially if they did any extensive amount of time. They did a dime or better. They're going to come out with a certain conditioning that takes a little bit to either shake and sometimes they don't. But what happens is that they come out of prison with a certain ideology, especially if they went in young. If they went in young in those formative years where they went in 18, 19, 20 years old and they stayed in there for 10 years, well, they've had 10 years of, believe it or not, education where they was taught that's your enemy. And you can tell them everything that you want to tell them out in the world. And what you're saying is correct. I'm not saying you're wrong. You're not wrong at all. What happens is what you're talking about is how do you overcome what do they call they call institutionalizing. Well, how do you combat that institutionalizing that institutionalization, I think is the proper way to say it, mindset that they experienced over those past 10 years when this guy's only 32 years old. He's been in there 10, 12 years, whatever. But how do you fix that? So that's the question. So you are right. You are right. We should come together, all of those folks. But
I would say this. I mean, you asked, how do we fix it? That's the question I would like to know, because here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to interact with each other. Black and brown men don't want to interact with each other because of this so-called institutionalization. However, they have no problem coming back and getting black and brown pussy. So if you can get
that's
the pussy,
different.
then why can't you reunite as brothers?
Because pussy is different. I'm just saying. Because pussy is pussy. That's a great question, but pussy is pussy.
So then that means that we are not allowing, our men are not thinking with their heads, because if they were thinking with their heads, then they could put that to the side and they could come together, but instead they allow pussy to control them, right?
Well, no, I was going to say that if they were thinking in the first place, a lot of these cats wouldn't have ended up in prison in the first place, because we already know that the system that we live in America is conditioned, it's set up, it's systemic, to whereas it's designed to send black and brown folks to prison. And knowing that, we need to be careful about how we move, careful about how we step and everything else. So if we wasn't savvy enough to keep from falling into that trap, how savvy do you think we are to identify the differences between some good pussy that happens to be a little browner or a little blacker or a little whiter? No, pussy is pussy to these guys, because guess what? He's been locked up for 10 years, ain't seen no pussy. So once he gets out and can get some, he don't care what kind of tan it's got. I mean, I feel you. You know what I'm saying? I feel you, what you're saying. I'm not lying, Marie. I hear you. I feel you. But what I'm suggesting to you is this, is that the ideological and the very lofty ideological positions that you take are very true. But in real life, this dude been locked up for 10 years. Some girl gonna give him some strange. He gonna get that. It don't matter what her tan looks like. But what you're saying is still true. So two things can be true at the same time. But that's some deep shit, though.
So now another question that I have, maybe Prophet or even AB if you choose to. We talk about the children, and this is something that I know that they've talked about in previous shows. But do you think that maybe the reason why children are the way that they are today is because, we as adults have lost our roles? Like we're not like what we used to be. Back in the day, a woman knew her role and she lived it. A man knew his role and he lived it. Nowadays, people don't know their role. A woman talks about she wants a man in her life, but then she tries to tell him what he needs to do to be a man instead of just letting him step up and be the man, and vice versa. So the kids are seeing that we talk, but we don't lead by example. Do you think that could be an issue why children are the way that they are today? And because parents are trying to be their children's best friends instead of a parent?
Can I answer first?
Yeah, please.
I think the first thing that has to happen is, and this is for the adult part, the adults need to let kids be kids. The reason why I'm saying that is this. 9 times out of 10, whenever the mother and the father gets into it, they in an argument, they separate, they divorce or whatever, one or the other puts the kid involved in what's going on. So these kids learn to grow up fast. They grow up fast because they feel that they need to, you know, to compensate for the one that's gone. You know, so when you have these children and basically they get mind fucked by the other parent, not to like the other one, or this, you know what I mean, or this dude ain't shit, or she going to him, you know what I mean, or this, or the dad going to the son and saying, you know what I mean, your mom ain't shit, she a hoe, this, that, and third. That's where it starts. Because there has to be a point, you know, now mind you, I was divorced and I had children. Now, one thing that I said was that I would never say anything bad about your mother to you. Anything about your mother, you're going to figure out in due time. You're not going to need me to say anything about it. You know what I mean? But what I am going to teach you is, and what I told her, you cannot teach your son, you cannot teach my son how to be a man. Okay? Because you think about this. The reason why we ended up married, the reason why we ended up having kids in the first place is because, you know what I mean, there was something about me that you liked in order for me to get that far. When we had children, then my job at that point, raise my child the way I feel that he needs to be raised, to the point that when he leaves, when he gets 18 years old and he walks out this house, that I pray that I taught him enough that he can be able to live and survive on his own. Now, mind you, he may fall, which we all did. We all fell down and scraped our knees. But our job as parents is to be able to pick them up, dust them off, show them the right way, smack them on the ass and send them on. Not to baby them. Right. Not to have, you know, men that's 35 and 40 years old still living with their mama. Okay? This is what we're looking at now. And you're looking at a lot of disrespectful teenagers, because when they were younger and they would do little stupid shit and they would cuss or whatever, and you know, you laugh and you giggle and you thought that was the funniest thing in the world until they turn 15, 16 years old, and then they front you out in front of somebody, then you want to kill them because they disrespected you. But you didn't deal with that previously. You know what I mean? When they first started doing it, you know what I mean? Because you think about it, when you was younger and you had 2 grown people talking and you jumped in the conversation and started running your mouth, what happened? You caught that backhand. They got a grown folks business.
Absolutely.
So you knew that when you seen 2 grown people talking, then that's what it meant. Okay? There was certain things that went on when we were children that we thought we was getting our ass whooped, and we was like, oh man, you know what I mean? Mom beating my ass for this, or dad beating my ass for this. But then when you got older, you realized the reason why they was beating your ass, because they were teaching you something. You know what I mean? Right. And what fell along the way is that, you know, you have the conversation between the mother and the father is separated. Once that's separated, right, for whatever reason, then that kid gets affected some way, shape, form, or fashion. So in order to fix that situation, then there has to come a civil agreement where, you know, we don't have to be together, we don't have to live in the same house, but we can still raise this child with a mother and a father, and you can teach him what you need to teach him, and I'm gonna teach him what I need to teach him, and to be able that when we send him out, that he can be the best that he knows how to be.
Right on. Hey, well said. Damn, bro. Well said. Well, I
hear what you say, and you are so right on point. But what about, you know, some of us don't have the option of having their father around because, you know, I'm a widow. So what would you say for people, for women in particular that have sons that are in a position like I'm in? How are they supposed to get that guidance? Because right now, I'm just going based off of what my late husband enlightened me on. and hoping that that's enough.
Prophet, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one, man. Sister, what I would say though, you'll often hear this, that you can't teach that young son to be a man, but you can put him around other men who are worthy to instill knowledge upon him. And this is where fraternalism comes in. This is where putting that child around coaches in sports. This is where putting them around the right teachers who can have an impact on them. This is around putting that young child around community leaders who can really, have an impact on that young child. And we understand, you yourself, you can only go so far with your teaching. You can only give him what you know from your perspective. But that doesn't mean that the game is over. Truly, you have to search and find a way to put that young man around other grown men who are positive and who can be a positive influence in that child's life. And that young man, that older gentleman, will then fill in those gaps and reinforce the teachings that you have laid down and help to bring this young guy up to a respectable gentleman in this society.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Hey, I wanted to ask you. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask Prophet actually about another thing that he wrote in the book. But if you had a thing, I'll come back to that. You can go ahead, and since you're here with us, Marie, go ahead, ask your question, please.
I had something and I cannot remember what it was.
That's
I'm
right.
a little under the weather.
That's
so,
right. Hang out with us for a minute. When you think of it, just jump in there. But I was going to ask, Prophet, why you got a problem with Willie Horton? No, I'm just playing. No,
So,
it was Willie Horton. When conservatives needed a boogeyman, they went dark.
Man,
I love the way that you phrase that.
So I got a problem with the way that conservatives use images of black people as a boogeyman. They use images of black people to scare the shit out of white people.
Yep.
Let's just keep it real. And it's been going on all the way back to remember the movie Birth of a Nation that came out that resurrected the Ku Klux Klan. They were all in blackface. They used these images of black people to scare the shit out of white people. So for those who don't know, Willie Horton was a guy who was convicted of a murder, and Michael Dukakis was running against George W. Bush Sr. Michael Dukakis advocated for a program where incarcerated inmates could get out of prison for a weekend and do some type of work to start to get them rehabilitated back into society. Where Willie Horton was let out of prison, and while he was out of prison, he committed another murder. This is what tanked Michael Dukakis his run for presidency. Officially, it was over. George W. Bush Sr. wins. Well, they plastered the image of Willie Horton all over the news. They plastered it all over the news because they wanted to show white people that, look at this big black brute. He is coming to scare you. He is coming to take everything you got. He's going to kill you. And if we look at that, we can see this happening over and over and over. When O.J. Simpson did what he did, the news, allegedly, the magazine took O.J. Simpson's face and they darkened it. O.J. Simpson is a light-skinned brother.
Yep.
They darkened his face. They put him on the cover and they plastered it all over the world. Today, when you want to scare white people, you take a picture of an immigrant and you say, listen, you place it and you plaster it all over the news media and say, this is the person that's coming for you. When you want to scare white people, you take the image of Michael Brown because he's a bigger guy and you plaster it all over. So this is the strategy that conservatives have used. And Willie Horton was another guy in a long line of people who have been used in this very same manner that white people have continually used this strategy. And not just white people, I want to be clear, racist white people have used this strategy to scare other white people into, their racism.
Well, we're talking about Willie and the way that certain folks will use information or pervert information. I'll say Willie Lynch comes to mind. Now, different application for sure, but the Willie Lynch or the Willie Lynch theory, the Willie Lynch syndrome, however they wanted to call it, was for folks that don't know what that was when back during the when slavery was the law of the land. The way it worked is there was this one guy, William Lynch, they call him Willie Lynch, and he had very successful slave plantations. He was of course, he had slaves for growing crops and, working in the fields and breeding and all kinds of other things. And he was considered very successful. He was actually an Englishman, if I remember properly, but he actually used to go around and teach other plantation owners how to manage their slaves. And one of the things that he used to teach them, and he must have taught them real well because it still carries over into this very day. But one of the things that he taught was, well, if you have some slaves in the field, you got to let these slaves in the field, they need to dislike the slaves in the house, because, and what we're going to do, we're going to take the light-skinned slaves, we're going to put them in the house and make them think, hey, you're better because you're light-skinned. And so now the dark-skinned slaves working in the fields have some animosity toward those ones working in the house, and they're going to be fed a little better and treated a little better and all this kind of stuff because they work in the house. And then they even had, if you were a very light-skinned slave, then, hey, we were going to treat you even better. So he taught, hey, all of these slaves need to distrust each other, but they really need to trust me because I'm the master. I'm the slave master. So you trust me, but you don't trust each other. You come to me, but you don't come to each other. Let's keep them divided and let's keep them always suspicious of each other. No matter what, don't let them get on the same page. Don't let them read. Don't let them write. Don't let them get educated. They need to be conditioned to believe and love you and not each other. And it sounds crazy when we say it now, don't it? Unless you think about how we do each other.
And Bone, I'm going to piggyback off of you while we're talking about Willie. In 1944, there was a kid named Willie Francis. All right. And Willie Francis was convicted of a murder, which he did not commit. But Willie Francis was 16 years old. And a jury of all white men took 20 minutes to convict him and sentence him to the death penalty. Willie Francis got the electric chair, which they call Big Gertie. He got the electric chair at age 16. But the electric chair was botched and he didn't die. He just suffered in agony. 2 years later, at age 18, he was electrocuted again and murdered. Willie Francis was the only person to receive the electric chair twice, a young black male.
Wow. That is heartbreaking. And let's see, somebody's giving us a call. Let's see who this is. Hey, hello, and thank you for calling the Big BoneYard. You got Big Bone 1%er, Archbishop 1%er, and the man Prophet on the line. Who's calling us? I guess it's nobody. Okay, I see the phone number. Let's take a look. See, let's see if we can, because this phone is acting stupid. Let's see if we can get a hold of somebody. Well, or maybe not. Let's see. All right, well, let's try it. So y'all be patient. The phone lines are clearly acting stupid tonight, but let's see what's going on.
Hello, you reached 480.
Okay. All right, we ain't gonna do all that. That sounds scary. I don't know who that was. That's all right. But I guess the moral to the show tonight is don't name your child Willie. Don't let them associate with anybody named Willie, because clearly it's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a setup for the future.
Yep.
I know.
Willie got a bad rep, man.
You know what? I'll tell you.
Oh,
Here we go again. All right, let's see. Hey, hello, and thank you for calling the Big BoneYard. You got Big Bone 1%er, Archbishop 1%er, and the man Prophet. Who this is? Say what?
Big Bone motherfucker. This is Jazz. You got the radio down. Yeah, what's going on, man? I never lost the number in.
How you doing, big brother?
I'm good, man. I'm catching the show. I see Prophet in the middle, man.
Right on.
This has been powerful. But that prison thing in the 20s, I definitely can help this young woman just as well as y'all. Institutionalization starts at the youngest age.
Yeah.
So I went in at 38, did 4, and watched people get less than 5 years and come out different. I've watched the change. It doesn't take a dime or better nowadays because I think we're losing a lot of it at home before they ever even get their first charge as a juvenile. Excuse me. The structure isn't there in the home like it was when I was a child.
Right.
You know, I didn't get in trouble. I got in trouble at 17 for joyriding. You know,
wow.
At 38, I did my first lick. 20 years went by because I was able to fall back on the foundation of the generation before me, the one that the lady was talking about. Women knew their role, men knew their role, and they stepped into it automatically. That automatic transition died during my generation. I watched it happen.
Yeah.
You know, it was like maleness to manhood. There was no transition from maleness to manhood. You got people in their 40s now acting like 19-year-olds.
Sure.
And I'm talking about the men. I don't know too many women, and I'm not a woman.
Right.
So I really can't. I don't want to speak about us as men. And white, black, brown, impoverished, with money, it doesn't really matter. It's that, I hate to say it, it's the little brain compared to the big brain. Little brain never steps aside. You know?
No, facts.
And if you're locked up, you don't see no pussy for a year. You come out, you want to hit the first thing you walk.
Yep.
You know, it's just what it is. And it's because that's all that's available for education.
Right
you
on.
get a lot of education from the old heads in school. The teachers in prison are scholars. Scholars from the institution. Not scholars of life. Scholars from the institution. You know, because things they're different inside and outside. I was lucky. I was 38 when I walked in the gate. You know, I wasn't called an inmate. I was called a convict. I was like, this is my first lick. Yeah, but you're an old head.
Right.
At 38, I'm 65 now. Now I'm an old head.
Yeah.
you know, the lights table up off to the back in the big house. But I want to turn the radio because I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, right on.
I was wondering, can people ask to be a part of your show? Because I think I've been alive long enough now, so I might know some.
Yes, yeah. Bit. I think you do. I believe you do. Yeah.
And you're right here with me. I don't know if you're my age, but you scratching on it.
I'm close.
You got the chrome, you know.
Look, I was trying to be like you, so
alive.
I bought my grape from the store. I was trying to be like you. I said, one of these days. But yo, I tell you what, Jazz, it's a blessing to hear from you, brother, because I don't care whether I'm meeting you up the road somewhere or on this thing here. You're always dropping some knowledge, brother. So I didn't know that. What'd you say? You did a nickel, or did you say 4, or you did a nickel?
I did 4. I did 4. And surprisingly enough, because of the generation I came from,
yeah,
I was convicted of crimes I did not do.
I can believe it.
I'm not a snitch.
Yeah.
4 years was nothing. You know, at 38, 4 years wasn't shit.
Right.
And I didn't think I was going to do the whole 4. I thought I was going to do like 2, 2.5.
And
boom, consecutive. I was like, God, oh, man, sucks to be black and white judge. Because that was all it was. 3 people in front of me got concurrent. 3 people in front of me got concurrent for violent crimes.
You got consecutive.
I got consecutive for nonviolent.
Mm-hmm.
For nonviolent.
Yep.
And that's it. So, yeah, this country is systematically set to take the impoverished, non-contributing people out of society and put them in a different world.
Well, Jazz, you just confirmed something for me.
Land of Oz.
Yeah. Well, see, you confirmed for us something that a lot of brothers have been wondering. Well, you pretty light skinned, but yet they still threw the book at you. So,
you know, they know I ain't white. They know I ain't white. They know I'm not white. Only we have the problem. We're the only ones that have a problem or put a difference between light skin and dark skin.
Yeah, don't we know?
Fixation level.
No, I hear you.
They don't care. If you ain't white, you ain't right.
Right.
In their world, if you ain't white, you ain't right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And they're afraid of it. I mean, and we can go into history. Prophet knows this. Prophet knows this stuff. When he talk about the Freedom Town, the best state that I've been to for Freedom Town is Oklahoma. There are so many freedom towns, farming communities that are 90% black. And everybody gets along, generally speaking. You know, still has some problems.
Yeah.
But I went to one where Black Rodeo.
Oh,
Black
yeah.
Rodeo that travels all around the country.
Right on. And, you know, I think that's the thing. I was watching a documentary.
Livestock. That's not just a show.
No, you said, say that again. You said, say that again.
Say what?
You said something. You said it's not just a show.
About the Freedom Town.
Yeah, you said it's not just a show.
Yeah, these rodeos are not a show. They
Okay.
don't practice. They're not actors. These are lives that they live. Like, we on two wheels, they on flesh and blood.
Okay.
It's a life that they live.
Right on.
And in comparison, it's just as special and important to us with iron as it's been with livestock. That's the life they live. I understand, I appreciate it, and I love it, but I can't do it. So I go to it, and I'm entertained with the show they put on about their life. You know, but if you go to these communities and see them on an everyday basis, you'll understand why we're so feared. Tulsa was destroyed because it was a booming city. You know, businesses, farming communities are left alone because farms feed America. So
Right
they're
on.
contributing to the land of Oz.
Right
The
on.
farm will never get shut down no matter what color the farmer is. The farms feed America. But let someone like, not even a banker, let a teller from 7-Eleven, so I date myself, Circle K,
Yeah.
walk up into a courtroom with a minor offense. All that person is a clerk. They're not feeding America. They take money, put it in a box, and hand them food. They're part of service and they can be replaced. Farmers cannot be replaced. You know what I mean?
Right on.
Yeah. How do you replace a farmer
Well,
when the farmer owns the land?
they've been trying to
You
figure
take
that
them
out.
off.
Archbishop
Yeah,
advised us.
I guarantee it.
Well, Archbishop advised
Good.
us just a week or two ago that they are making food in laboratories now. Didn't you tell us that like last week or so?
Oh yeah, they're making that lab grown chicken and making the damn beef out of the 3D printer shit. Yeah, they about to do all that. And they talking Tyson was it Tyson and was talking about using it, and also KFC.
Yeah, Tyson, KFC, and I think Purdue was I think was looking at an alternate version, something that was different than what Tyson was going to do. I'm like, what the hell? Because when you told me about it, I was like, for real?
I mean, they're just trying to make
Well,
eggs that look just like real eggs.
understand that Purdue's major. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Understand Purdue is an engineering school. Engineering, all phases of engineering: electronic, aeronautical, food, pharmaceutical, engineering. They're studying how to make things automatically or autonomically. That's what Purdue's base foundation is.
Mm.
You know, they're trying to make planes fly themselves. So the truck, you know, the automated truck.
Yeah.
All that shit's coming out of Purdue. Well, big pharmaceutical. Those aren't doctors. Those are engineers.
Wow.
So I could easily, and that's my dad and my brother's alma mater.
Mm.
So I've been to that campus, and it's odd. You know, I've been to a few college campuses, and each one of them is different. I went to Southern Colorado State in Pueblo.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small metallurgic engineering, welding school, trade school. I was supposed to be a blue-collar tradesman, building things for us to make money off of.
Yeah.
You know, as long as I was doing that, I didn't get messed with. But as soon as I stopped doing that, started doing my shit for me and my people, I was targeted.
Mm.
I was just smarter than the shooter, so to speak.
Gotcha.
You know, it's like, oh no, I might, stay out of this situation, stay out of that situation. Now I'm a stereotypical person, an old black man driving a Cadillac.
Gotcha. Are you playing computer love?
I have been doing. I swear to God, I was doing something stupid driving to get to another gas station, and a cop saw me do it, as soon as he saw this old black man in a Cadillac, you be careful out there, and drove off.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, granted, I'm a convicted felon. I got a pistol in the door. I got a pistol on my hip. You know, weed is legal here, so that was no big thing. But, you know, that wasn't the only thing in my car.
Right on.
They didn't question my passenger because they saw me in control of an old black man in a Cadillac. I'm stereotypical in their minds. I'm exactly what I'm supposed to be at
Right.
this age and appearance. I'm not what they're looking for.
Right, right.
You know, I'm not what they're looking for.
You
Now,
got
if I
to,
was 30 years ago
yeah.
driving this car, I'd have been a dealer.
Mm.
You
And your name, Willie. Hey,
I wasn't supposed to have some money. But anyway, that to see that happen in prison, and I've been talking about, and it looks like, I don't know if Prophet's listening, what and Archbishop, that well, God, my vocabulary's gone. That age of molding of manhood, from maleness to manhood. We were males from the day we were born. We were different phases. Once we hit that 18, you got about a 10-year gap to make a decision what way to go, and that's when the education hits.
Yeah, that's what I was
If you're
talking about
locked
before.
up, your teachers are in a certain group. If you're not locked up, you have a plethora of teachers.
Yeah.
Only certain doors will open automatically, and then there's other doors you got to kick them open. But then you get on our side, where we're outcast, we're not accepted, and we built a world. We're not. It's just not our club. There's a lot of us that don't fit in the box, that don't even ride motorcycles. But we're in a world that we can create structure. We're in a world that we can build a future with. And they can't fly over the top of us and drop bombs. Philly, I think, was the last one.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Philly, where they napalmed and almost an entire block.
Yep, yep. That was
Why?
Philly.
That shit never even hit the national news. Because they were wrong. They knew they was wrong. Now it's CNN. What was that movie? With John Travolta's Robin Banks.
Oh, yeah.
CNN and MSN, all that shit. You
Yeah.
can practice see the brain matter on TV. So they can't broadcast shit that they do. So they had to slow down. It became smaller, but more widespread. You know, police on black, doctors on black. I'm not saying don't trust. I can't say go through your life living in fear of another skin color, but understand what their mindset is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. If you're
Oh, right on. You still there?
understand there be a
Okay, there you
certain
go.
direction. You know, so with us being sitting off to the side, not doing what other black folk do. You know, we're not stepping fetching. We're not doctors or lawyers. Kind of, well, we could be. Some of us are. Some we got some doctors and lawyers, I'm sure. The thing is we live a life that's outside of it, and that puts a target on it. Our ways out. Our ways out. Don't slap them upside the head with it. Live it and mind your business.
Right.
You know. But if you got, I don't believe in being a show off outside of our block, outside of our circle. You know, and I say block, I don't mean that one block.
Yeah.
I mean out of our block of people, out of our section. We're born into a world or society, which is the United States, and we live on a planet. We can move our box. It doesn't fit in their rectangle. I'm a parallelogram. I kind of tilted out to one side. We don't fit in the square box. Or we can put our parallelogram anywhere we want, not just in this world, but on this planet. So if you understand the teachings that they have, disconnect, how society is set up, you can find
Right.
and at least three of y'all, I'm looking at them on the phone right now.
Oh, right on.
You wave, you know what I'm saying? We're not alone. And I think here's another mentality that happens. When you don't fit in society's box, they want to send you somewhere to change your brain. They want to mold your thinking into what they want. And if you don't fit in that box, they cast you aside. And also, here comes depression. Now I'm all by myself fighting the whole thing. Stop thinking that way. You're not alone. You're not alone.
Man, well, I got to tell you, Jazz, as always, brother, you always bring it. We love hearing from you because you've given not just us three, but everybody listening. You've given us a lot to think about, a lot to consider, and a lot of, the thing that so many folks, I think we were talking about a little earlier when Marie called, is that, how do you get this, like for young brothers, black, brown, white, plaid, checkerboard, whatever. How do young folks get the opportunity to get, young men in particular, how do they get what they need to help them segue into from maleness to manhood? And it's from folks like you. It is from folks like us. We got to take an opportunity, like we have to take the opportunity to kind of preach and teach a little something. But those young women who are mothers to these young men, take the opportunity to reach out to an archbishop or to a Big Bone or to a prophet or to a Jazz. And most of us, I'm sure,
to Maria.
Or to Maria, yeah.
Or to Maria,
yeah.
The woman that asked the
yeah,
questions.
Marie is a
women that ask questions are the ones you side up next to.
Absolutely, and I think that it's a good thing. It puts us on the right page.
Well, we as older gentlemen, we've lived a little bit of life. We're here. I think a lot of the younger generation don't know it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask these questions. Maria was strong enough to ask that question. Young folks, hang out with Maria. Find out who she's asking these questions to, or listen to the answers she gets. Or hook up with people like that go out there searching. If you don't want to look, you don't want to pick up books, you don't want to pick up the phone and do some research, find somebody that's doing it. And when they start preaching, become the choir. Become the choir. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the songs in the choir. I was having to become part of the choir.
Yeah.
So that I'm being preached to as a choir. I'm reminded of what's really going on. Everybody sees it every single day, but they don't understand what they're looking at. So they turn away.
But I'll tell you, we
Some people keep looking and ask questions. Why are you doing that?
But we do want them to actually pick up at least one book, and that's one of the ones that Prophet wrote, because our brother Prophet is doing the damn thing, and we definitely want folks to pick up that book, and I just use that opportunity to say that, but no, for real though, brother, we appreciate it, and what you're saying is nothing but the gospel. So, and keep fucking with us, keep don't be shy, give us a call. Let us know when you're thinking about whatever you're thinking about, because we want to hear it. We need it.
Now, is this 310 number? Is this your line number? Is this the broadcast line?
No, this is the number. It's the number to the show. But when if you call it like when the show's not on, it'll go to either voicemail or it'll be forwarded. But we can get the call, sure. Oh, speaking of which, somebody's asking. Let me tell you, somebody's asking Prophet to make sure that you put your way to go. Could you please ask Prophet to share his link? Yeah, they're saying Prophet, they want you to put your link in the information so that folks can find you.
And another question: is Prophet part of our personal family? Is this the same Prophet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, damn, Prophet, we met about 9 years ago.
Okay.
I don't know if he can hear me. But me and Prophet met about 9 years ago when he used to wear the beret, that Ranger beret.
Yep, I always wear the beret. That's right.
You ain't had no gray in your beard then, bro.
Getting a little older now.
We was all alive young. We get a little older now. But I'm glad I don't know if Prophet can hear me. Prophet, I'm glad you stayed on your path.
Appreciate it.
You know so much more than what you spit back then. And what you spit back then cleared the glass so people could see. That's just, you spit on your glasses and wipe the dust and dirt off. Prophet was spitting game at least 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That could clean the dirt off your eyes.
Yep.
And I think a lot of us just don't want to see. A lot of people just don't want to see. And it's a fear-based thing. Should I take this job? I'm afraid I might not qualify. I'm afraid I'm not good enough. That's that systematic brainwashing. Prophets keep bringing the light. We're not what they tell us we are.
Facts.
That's the biggest message I could ever give to anybody. We are not who they tell us we are.
Right.
We are greater than.
Right on.
You know?
The narrative.
Yeah, the link, if it goes up in there, or if you can send it,
yeah, we can send it. We can send it.
You're looking at my phone number, right? Right now?
Yes, sir.
Hit me when you're not broadcasting. We can talk and just text me the link, because I now have a lot of time on my hands.
Okay.
Where I'm sitting still.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll shoot it.
I want to read that book.
I'll shoot it as soon as we wrap up. Speaking of which, we're getting ready to in just a minute, because we've been on the air for about 2 hours and 5 minutes, and this has been a good one. Lord knows it's been a good one. So for anybody that's listening to this thing, please definitely get out there, hit the button. It'll take you about 2-3 seconds. Like, subscribe, share, all like that. Make sure other folks get the chance to see this thing. Make sure other folks get a chance to see what we're doing and what we're talking about and all like that. Because Prophet, definitely, y'all need to hear what he is saying in this book. And in fact, if I can do it properly, I wanted to say it properly. The name of the book that we're talking about is Lightning Consciousness, Soul Food for the Starving Mind. And for real though, all right, we ain't gonna do it right now. But no, it's just deep to the third power. It really is. And we're hoping if you want to do yourself a favor, get this book, read this book. It'll make a big difference in your life. I think if you read this book and you feel the same way about everything that you've been thinking, when you finish this book, then you didn't pay attention or something like that. All right. Now, what the hell? All right, let's take one more. Okay. Is it going? I'm trying to answer. It's not picking up. What the hell? Right, let me try this bad boy. What the hell? Really? The phone won't answer. All right. Damn, y'all. I apologize. The phone won't answer. What the hell? Really? All right. I don't know. All right. Let's see what's going on. Technology problems.
Yeah, it happens, man.
I hit the button like 10 times. It wouldn't answer.
Hello?
Hey, hello. You just called the Big BoneYard with Big Bone 1%er, Archbishop 1%er, and the man Prophet. Hey, who's calling, please?
Oh, it's Tate, Big Bone.
Oh, it's Tate from ABATE. Tate is the president of the Lake County, Florida chapter of ABATE. How's it going tonight, sir?
Hold on, let me close out that so I can hear the video in the background. So, comments and concerns are mine and mine of my own. I gotta say this so I don't get no shit from the state next weekend.
Right.
They do not perform nothing with
You've been watching the show.
Everybody got a disclaimer.
You already know how it is. So the issue is, the kids are looking up to people that are not, they're men by definition in the dictionary. They are not men definition by men. They are scared to stand up on what they believe in because of the cancel culture that has been created today. White, black, brown, Chinese, across the board, if you say the wrong thing and you're in, let's say, LeBron James's shoes, now nobody's going to buy anything that you are around. The issue with the kids these days is they look up to those men and they've been indoctrinated in the school system and by police and other people that your parents cannot whip your ass. If you get spanked, you are being abused. If our kids went back to getting their ass beat on a regular basis, we wouldn't have half the issues we have now. And another thing is, I want Prophet's outlook on this. I believe children should start having to learn and read in school Dear Mama starting in grade 6. Because everybody hears Tupac and they think, oh, he's a rapper. But he's not. Tupac is a poet that just so happened to go, hey, if I put this shit behind music, people are going to listen to it. Because me in freshman year, that's something my English class did, was study Dear Mama, which was all Tupac's music written. And it taught, well, I can't say it taught everybody, but it gave me a good outlook on what a real man should be, coming from a single parent household that he didn't have the opportunities of, and I'll say it, somebody like me. Because there is a big difference in the educational possibilities and how different children are treated in the public school system. And I've witnessed it, depending on the color of their skin or how many parents are at home. I don't say all teachers are bad, because they're not. There's bad apples in every bunch, and one bad apple does not ruin the whole bunch. But in my personal opinion, this cancel culture bullshit that's been going on for years needs to go away. Because if LeBron feels one way about something and Tom Brady feels one way about something, it's very wrong that people are going to be like, oh, Brady's right, LeBron's an idiot.
Right. All right. Well, shit. Okay. Well, that's something to think about. Doggone Prophet, what do you say?
Man, so I like I expressed before, man, I love Tupac Shakur to death. And I was very surprised when I learned that scholars were studying Tupac not as an artist, but as a philosopher and as a revolutionary and as a poet. And I agree with that, man. I think that people, especially of this generation, who only know Tupac as a person who met his demise in LA and a person who battle rapped and all this stuff, they only know that version of Tupac. I think if more people can be exposed to Tupac the revolutionary and Tupac the poet, they will really get a deeper insight into how deep this brother was. And so right now there's a very good documentary out called Dear Mama that I think we all need to tune into and watch, because it really illustrates how important his mother was to his life, Afeni Shakur, and the impact that it had on Tupac and where he came from and how he was able to use his poetry as the voice of the people and how he turned his poetry into music. So I agree with what the brother was saying. Definitely, we need to expose the youth to Tupac the poet as early on as possible, because my mother was coming up. They were exposed to, you know, people like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and they resonated with Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and those types of people. But this next generation that's coming up, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X don't mean much to this generation that's coming up. So maybe a person more closer to them may resonate with them. And I think Tupac is an excellent example of somebody who can really talk that revolutionary talk and really galvanize the people. So I definitely think we should all of us should tune into the documentary Dear Mama and listen to Tupac.
Right on. Bishop, what say you, sir?
You know what, I'm gonna chime in on that question that he was asking on the phone. My thing is this. First off, I believe spread a rod, spoil a child. That's how I grew up, first and foremost. Second thing is when we sit here talking about, you know, LeBron and Brady being heroes. Okay, that's fine. But in my house with my kids, I'm that dude. The reason why, because I'm the one that brought you in this bitch. You know what I mean? I brought you in here, and I'm the one that's teaching you every day how you need to be. You know what I mean? Now, it's real hard for certain men to be heroes to their sons and their daughters if their sons and their daughters have no respect for the man. And the reason why that is because of, you know, well, it's certain reasons. You know what I mean? Hell, if you ain't around, you ain't teaching your kids like you're supposed to be teaching them. You don't have that constant communication with your children. Yeah, I mean, of course, they're gonna look to they're gonna look outside the house. You know what I mean? And it's not actually being a hero, it's more idolizing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You idolizing this person because in your mind you think that this person is this way. He may not be that way. That's just what you perceive him to be, though. You know what I mean? As opposed to, you know, your actual father that's actually there. You know what I mean? If you I tell my son constantly, you have no idea what it's like to be in my shoes, because you ain't have to go out here and work. You didn't have to get up in the morning when you didn't want to get up. You didn't have to go out here, work hurt, sick, and everything else to make sure that you have what you needed. You didn't have to do that yet. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's what kids look at. They look at, you know, it's not always about what you can give them. You know what I mean? They think, a lot of people tend to think that kids are just kids. I mean, kids are actually pretty smart. I mean, and they look at a wide variety of things that's going on. It's not always about what you can give them. It's not always about the money and, you know, take them out and buying shoes or whatever. Sometimes it's just a conversation that you have, that you just spit one-on-one. You know what I mean? It's a difference between, you know, I think what it is that parents need to stop trying to be their friend and be their parent. You know what I mean? Teach them what they need to know. You know what I mean? It ain't about, you know, like when you're their friend, you tend to let certain things go because you don't want them mad at you, as opposed to your parent that's going, you know, he may beat your ass, but he gonna stir you in the right direction after that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like back in the day, they used to say you get your ass whipped, they be like, did you learn something? Yeah. Okay, what did you learn out of that? You know what I mean? Once they stated what it was that they learned, do you think they're gonna do it again? No, because they already know what the repercussions is for that. You know what I mean? A lot of these, I mean, how many times have you been in a store, in a mall or whatever, and you hear a kid sit there and holler and scream at their mother, or hoop, or cuss their mom, or call their mom out their name? You know what I mean? You be wanting to turn their ass up because you know you like, man, ain't no way in fuck I'm gonna let this kid talk to me like that. Ain't no way in fuck. I don't give a fuck whose kid he is. You know what I mean? But this is what happens in this day and age now. You know what I mean? Kids don't have respect. They don't have respect for their parents because their parents have been too busy trying to be their friend as opposed to being their parent. You didn't teach them shit.
Right.
You know? So how do you expect them to have respect? Just like how we talk about brotherhood and loyalty and all that. How do you expect these kids to have this shit if you never put them in a situation where they had to do it?
Right.
Where they had to experience it.
Right.
You know, that's where that mentality versus mindset kicks in.
Yo, yeah, facts. Oh, by the way, Marie said, so to the Big BoneYard, she goes, we didn't fight to sit next to them. We fight to be treated like humans the same way they were being treated respectfully. So yeah, I dig that. I think that's sort of like a reoccurring theme of what we're talking about. And that's again why here I go sounding like somebody from the damn talk shows, but that's why I'm really hoping everybody's gonna take some time out, find this book, get this book. I've got the do you want me to post that the link that you sent? Want me to post that one?
Yeah, the one about literature. Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can get that bad boy to cooperate. I think we got it, and bam, there it is. So I just put it in the comments. So go to that link and find this book, because I really think that it's some wonderful conversations. It's some wonderful information there that, you know, a lot of the stuff we talked about, not everything, because we didn't want to give away the whole story. That wasn't the goal, because we want you to buy the book because there's just too much in that book that's too valuable. And we don't have the kind of time to go over it, so you can take a minute to digest it and so forth. But at this point, we're going to be getting ready to say goodnight to y'all. But we just, as always, I want to tell y'all I'm so appreciative of y'all taking time to spend some time with us tonight. And I know y'all just came because Prophet was on here and he's funny looking, and y'all like to see funny looking people. And it must be that. That's got to be what it is. It must be. But no, for real, we appreciate y'all being here. And matter of fact, speaking of which, Prophet, say something to the folks.
Man, I got a few things to say, man. One, I want to thank y'all brothers for y'all gave me an opportunity when my book first came out. This book, Y'all were the first person to give me a platform, man, for this book. This book has sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies. And I want to say thank y'all, because without y'all, it may not have done as well as it did. So I want to say thank y'all for giving me that faith. And then as far as the other book that's out and the book that's coming out, these two books, Light and Consciousness, Volume 1, Volume 2, again, it's about information that has been hidden from us or information that you just didn't get taught in the Western education system. And again, my job, my purpose in this life is to feed the people information, give the people what I do. I do the research and I give it to the people because my God has given me an opportunity to live this life. He's given me the knowledge, the ability to research, and it's people like you who give me the platform to spread this information. So I always say that each one, reach one, teach one, and that's my job in this life. So I ask people to go out, support Black artists, support myself, but in the midst of doing all that, you're going to learn. You're absolutely going to learn. You're going to learn stuff that you've never heard of. You're going to learn why dunking was outlawed in the NCAA and the NBA because of racism. You're going to learn about the 11 Black men that the Nazis killed and the United States Army chose to forget. You're going to learn why mac and cheese was a Black invention. You're going to learn all these wonderful things. And in the midst of it, I ask that you teach somebody else. So Big BoneYard, host people. I appreciate y'all, man. I can't say it enough. Y'all give me a platform each and every time, and you ask for nothing in return. I appreciate y'all, brothers. I love y'all, and thank you much.
And, hey, brother, hey, one of these days when I grow up, I'm going to learn how to talk pretty words like you be saying. But I dig it. I dig it though, man. And look, nothing but love, brother. You know how we do. And AB, what say you, sir?
Oh man, it's another week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I appreciate Prophet being on here. You know what I mean? It's always good to talk to that brother, man. You always learn something from him. And when I gave him the shout out a couple weeks ago, it was as soon as I heard about that book, I'm like, yeah, we got to get him on here. We got to get him on. But I really appreciate you, Prophet, for taking the time out to do that. And to all the boneheads, I appreciate you tuning in every week, listening to us. And hopefully a lot of the stuff that we're talking about that you're taking back and you're using in your day-to-day life, you know what I mean? Hopefully this is something that you learned tonight that you can pass on. But we just scratched the surface of his book. There's tons and tons of information in this book, you know, and I enjoyed reading it, and I know you will too. So to everybody, I'll see you in 7 days, God willing. Until then.
Right on. That part. By the way, Phenom was just asking you, Prophet, are you going to be back at the Proc? Because then, by the way, you kicked ass at the Proc. You did well. I think you sold everything that you had at the Proc. Everything. And so let me tell y'all, for those of y'all boneheads that didn't make it to the Proc this year, I enjoyed hanging out with Doggone Prophet because I felt like I was hanging out with Mick Jagger or Billy D. Williams or something. I was like, oh, damn. People were like, yeah, oh, Big Bone. Right. It was all cool right up until somebody glanced a little bit to the right and seen Prophet. And then they gave me a step. I'm like, hell out of the way. You ain't Prophet. But it was cool, though, man. So are you coming to the Proc this year or next year?
I'll be back at the Proc. I won't be a speaker on the main stage, but I'll be back at the Proc. So, hey, man, again, each one, reach one, teach one.
Right on. Well, we're going to try to be there as well because the Proc is always a good thing. In the meantime, I just want to tell y'all, my little 2 cents is, we love y'all. We definitely appreciate y'all for hanging out with us, supporting us and all like that. And, we just appreciate the hell out of it. And again, Prophet, thank you for joining us here on the Big BoneYard. And brother, we're going to do this again. I'm pretty sure Archbishop said 7 days. You said 7 days, right? And what was it? 7 days. He said 7 days. So 7 days, we're going to do this thing again. Right on. Hey, in the meantime, hey, love and respect to all of y'all. And thank y'all for joining us tonight on the Big BoneYard.
Welcome to the Big BoneYard. Intellectual risk.
I decided to pursue a career in law because it gives me an opportunity to help people. When a client chooses us to represent them, they're entrusting us with a huge responsibility. It's our goal to exceed their expectations with our personalized service and to help them to achieve the best possible recovery to compensate them for their injuries.
That's where we come in. We come in and we solve that problem for them and really set them on the right track in order to try and get back to what their life was like before the accident happened.